So I used to practice the whole, it'll take me 3-4 days to put out a piece of content, but I'm putting all my effort into it. And I realized with the algorithm, you don't know if that quality is actually going to be performing well. So why spend that much time actually trying to create a piece of content that might not actually perform well? Quantity and quality. I think a lot of
usually those posts that you think are the posts that you spend the most amount of time on often do the worst. And the ones that you just throw up in a second tend to do the best. Not always, but just remember that when you're spending 4 days on a post. You know what I mean? Like you're saying.
This is a highly debated topic, no matter what platform you're on. It could be Instagram, it could be YouTube, it could be TikTok. Quantity versus quality. This is always a debate. I want to go around and figure out what do they deem is more important to their Instagram strategy.
It's going to be a pretty cliche answer, but both, but in order. So like you have to start with,
I'm joking.
That's totally fair. But you have to start with quantity to figure out what quality is, right? Because for you to have never created content before, how do you even know what quality is? So if you're using the amount of time that you spent to create a piece of content and no one liked it or resonated with it, then clearly that's the wrong benchmark. You don't even know what the questions to ask or the benchmarks are until you've created enough content. So I would say it's quantity, and then after that, quality. But you have to have the quantity to know what quality looks like.
That's a really great way to put it. I love that. I apologize for booing you.
It's okay.
Made it back up.
I earned it. It's fine.
Well, I just want to add quickly to what Ben said. One of my business coaches, Jay Kunzo, because I've asked him this on one of my video series, and he said quantity creates quality. So very similar to what Ben's saying. And so I think at the beginning, especially, just post everything and anything. And eventually, I think when you start building your personal brand and have more of a concerted strategy, then I would start leaning more towards quality. But I don't like to pick either one because it is kind of both. But I think once you start building an audience and you've established yourself, then you can focus on creating more intentional pieces that are bringing people down your funnel. Like at the beginning, and you're just trying to grow your awareness, if you're thinking about a marketing funnel, the top of the funnel is awareness. And so you got to get people in the funnel to start converting them down into a sale. And so how do you get that is with a lot of quantity, or, you know, those high viral posts, which usually come with quantity. But when you are starting, just try not to overthink it. And I struggle with this so much. I think before we start filming, we get into a mindset of this has to be perfect, this has to perform well, otherwise I feel like shit. But when you bring that energy into the video, you can sense that. And so whatever you can do before you start recording to get yourself in a good mindset, you know, ask yourself, how can I make this as fun, easy, and enjoyable for myself as possible? That really can come through. And then the other last thing I would say is, if you have an idea for a piece of content, just create it, because there's a certain energy that you bring when you act on that initial inspiration when it strikes.
With so many people putting out a lot of content, typically quality will have like outlier level performance, because with so many people putting out content, a lot of it blurs together. So anything that's 1% different will stand out by 100%. And so the issue, the trap that we fall into is studying that and being like, that's the key to success. But what we fail to realize is the people that are doing that, getting that success, this is like their 1,000th or like 10,000th post. So it's like they know what this looks like and they went through all of that. If you're not there, start with exactly what we're saying. Get stuff out there, just let it all fly, and then critique from there.
Great addition. And I think that's a really strong point. We don't know what everybody else's stage at life or just in regards to social media, where they're at. So that's an excellent point.
So I don't want to be like a broken record here, but they're both so important. And I think that not only are they different based on how far you are in your journey, but also it's important based on your goals. Like, are you, you know, Steph mentioned like with your funnel, are you trying to just build awareness right now? And maybe you're very established already and you've been growing for a while, but maybe you're launching a new program. So maybe you're getting ready, so you're like warming people up. So you're back here at the top of this funnel and your content's going to be different than when you're actually like hard selling and you're, you know, closing doors to whatever offer it is. Like, you've got to understand that quality are going to ebb and flow with the way that you continue to grow your brand, your business, and with your goals and with your personal brand too. It ties into like how you're doing personally, mentally, emotionally, physically. Like, all of this has to be taken into account as well, because that's going to show up when you're feeling extremely burnt out and you're really just hanging on there. it's felt in your content. So we don't want to go all in on quantity at that point. We want to step back and give ourselves space to create quality and then come back hard hitting with the quantity once we regroup. So it really ebbs and flows, and you need to find different ways to push yourself and allow yourself to learn along the way. What works for you? What do you enjoy? And what do you feel your audience really resonates with? What's fun for you, and what makes you want to keep
really
going?
excellent points. I think I could agree with all of you guys. So go ahead, Ben, you can boo me, because I'm going to fully agree with you and everybody else here, because I think too many times we kind of face it as there's an ultimatum. We have to decide. It has to be either one or the other. And we don't really actually sometimes consider, well, why not both? Why not try to find that happy medium where I'm not burning myself out creating a lot of quantity, but I'm also knowing that I'm doing more than I normally can. I'm doing more than the minimum. Then I can start alleviating and trying to improve my quality, because I'm putting out a certain amount that I continue to learn from. I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm aiming for progress with each time I put out something new. So I think that's the way that I've been looking at it. Although I have, I'm not going to lie, I have been looking at it before of the whole quality. So I used to practice the whole, it'll take me 3-4 days to put out a piece of content, but I'm putting all my effort into it. And I realized with the algorithm, you don't know if that quality is actually going to be performing well. So why spend that much time actually trying to create a piece of content that might not actually perform well? Oh, so I think it's a real good equilibrium of both quantity and quality. And I think a lot of
usually those posts that you think are the posts that you spend the most amount of time on often do the worst. And the ones that you just throw up in a second tend to do the best. Not always, but just remember that when you're spending 4 days on a post. You know what I mean? Like you're saying.
Well, I love everybody's perspective on quantity and quality. And I think it's something that we can all kind of focus on, not necessarily always have to feel like we have to decide one or the other. Right, Meg?
I totally agree. I would say that, to recap here, like, they both are so important. And in order to find what you should be focusing on right now, you've got to go into the personal brand. You've got to go back to the basics, and you've got to find what works for you. You've got to figure out what is fun for you, what you enjoy, and what's going to help 100%. You stay sane.
Yeah, I think if I could teach anybody who wants to be better at social media to focus on one word, it'd be nuance, because that is like one word that encapsulates like what it means to be successful on social consistently. Because whenever a question is asked, it's always like, there is no one answer. It's dependent on your goals, your competition. Like, there's a million and one answers. So I think becoming okay with that and understanding how like the wins are made and understanding nuance. And again, it takes quantity to actually figure out what variables to even look at. But that's something I always think about is like, hey, well, the answer is this because of the situation and all the variables attached to it, not just the question in a vacuum, if that makes sense.
Well, I hope you guys took note from what we thought about in regards to the idea of quantity versus quality.